Sir, Honorable Chairman, Major General B.K. Mahapatra Sir, Honorable Vice Chairman, Director General, respected Additional Director General BCCM, Colonel P.K. Sahu Sir, respected Senior Director cum Dean Academics, Dr. Sujata Mangaraj, dear student participants, faculty delegates from various colleges, distinguished guests and dignitaries, our invitees, my dear colleagues, staff members, and dear students. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Bhavan Center for Communication and Management, I extend a hearty and warm welcome to our esteemed speaker, Professor Dr. Arun Kumar Rath, retired IAS officer, and all the webinar. Today's topic of webinar is corporate social responsibility and sustainability, challenges and opportunities is selected keeping in view the increasing role of CSR in how companies approach businesses and engage communities. To address on this topic, we have amongst us an eminent personality, Dr. Arun Kumar Rath, a senior IAS retired officer and an academician par excellence. The session flow is like this. The speaker will address on the topic, followed by question answer session, and all the participants are requested to post their questions in the chat box. If anyone wants to ask a question, they kindly raise their hand and the organizers shall unmute the participant. Now, I take the privilege to introduce our Senior Director cum Dean Academics, Dr. Sujata Mangaraj, who is a strong believer in global visibility of Indian business. Dr. Mangaraj has been striving tirelessly for more than 3 decades to improve the benchmark of quality of Indian management education internationally. At present, she is the National President of Association of Indian Management Schools, AIMS, Executive Board Member of AMBISA, Member of All India Board of Management AIB AICTE. She is the mentor and evaluator of Accreditation Council for Business Schools and Programs, ACBSP USA. Dr. Mangaraj has served as the Dean, School of Management Studies, Ravenshaw University, and Dean, School of Management Studies, Regional College of Management. Now I request our Dean, Dr. Sujata Mangaraj Madam, to give the welcome address. Ma'am,
Thank you.
please.
Yes. Thank you, Professor T. Sridharbi. Our Honorable Chairman, Sir, Major General B.K. Mahapatra, Sir. Our esteemed guest speaker of the day, a very renowned personality, Dr. Arun Kumar Rath, former Union Secretary, HRD, Government of India. Dear Professor T. Sridharbi, the moderator of the webinar, deans, directors, and faculty members of different business schools of the state, invited members, my dear students, not only the students from Bhavan Center for Communication and Management, but students and faculty members from different business schools of Odisha. A very good evening and a hearty welcome to all of you. This is our 42nd webinar. I welcome our esteemed guest speaker, Arun Kumar Rath sir. Sir, I welcome you to this webinar. I also extend a very hearty and warm welcome to all the members present in this webinar. Sir, this is for your information. For the first time, you are addressing to the Bhavanites. I think you should know a few things about Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. You know it, sir, very well. And Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan has already completed 8 decades, sir. It's an 82 years old institution, organization, established as a philanthropic initiative by the founder, Dr. K. Munshi, to promote education, art, and culture. It's a very, very value-based organization. It has 337 institutions, starting from KG to PG. And if you'll see that across the country, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan has 119 centers and 9 centers abroad, outside India. It is in London, Lisbon, Australia, in Sydney, and in Dubai, Singapore, in most of the centers, it is very, very vibrant, sir. Under the Bhavan of Bharatiya Vidya, under this Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan umbrella, we have 14 business schools, and SP Jain is one of the leading business school, and Bhavan Center for Communication and Management, Bhubaneswar. Our institute is one of the premier business school of the state of Odisha. It has been ranked as the third best business school in the state by CSR GHRDC Best B School ranking. Sir, here we groom our students that has endured to be independent in thinking, yet interdependent in action, while staying within the framework of values. You should be happy to know that, sir, we not only focus on the knowledge quotient, IQ, also we focus on emotional quotient, we focus on spiritual quotient, we focus on social quotient, we also focus on how they should be the lifelong learner, that is learning quotient as well as adversity quotient. And we are the only business school in the state, we are offering healthcare and hospital management as one of the specializations, sir. From the last year, we started this specialization. We could see this year, there's a lot of demand for this specialization to catering to the need of the healthcare need during this pandemic. We could see that this specialization can help business school students to have greater employability prospect and to serve to the society in a very good manner, sir. We look into business analytics as one of the key area for today's business organization with the integration of technology. So you'll be happy to know that at the same time, since the beginning, from 2006 onwards, this business school for its PGDM program has introduced Indian history and culture, which today, I think in 2020 new education policy focuses on that. And if you look into 2018 January, the model curriculum of All India Council for Technical Education, the model curriculum also focuses on value-based education. And that's what, from the very beginning, we are doing, sir. We are very happy to inform you that during this pandemic, we have already organized 41 webinars, and very eminent personalities from industry, academia, research, government, public and private sector, they addressed on these webinars on topics of varied interest, starting from new education policy to business and economics, entrepreneurship, agriculture, and movie appreciation also, sir, to mention a few. We have a system of golden cap. Sir, in each paper, we invite practitioners for giving their practical experience and sharing how the theory and concept are being practiced in industry. For each course, we have a system. And this webinar perhaps is one of such golden cap. We have a paper on CSR and sustainability and corporate governance. And the topic of this webinar suits very much to this golden cap, that is corporate social responsibility and sustainability challenges and opportunities. If you look into the topic, India is the first country, I believe, to have mandatory compulsory CSR spendings through changes in its legislative framework. Focus has thus shifted from the why to how of the CSR. Therefore, a shift in the locus of CSR responsibility has been visible from the influencer, that is the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, AMD, towards the implementer, that is CSR professionals. Now, all major corporate houses, we see that they have CSR foundations. There is NALCO Foundation, there is Infosys Foundation. In each and every corporate house now they have foundations. So therefore, CSR and sustainability is increasingly recognized as one of the prime focus of businesses today, and the role of management education in influencing the cause of socially responsible business has been seen as one of the main reason proactively influencing the locus of CSR. So the new education policy also focuses on this. The model curriculum also focuses on this. Business schools, through its curricula, are incorporating ethical decision making, ethical leadership, corporate governance, and sustainability in order to develop ethical business leaders who understand the responsibility of business in society and also who influence ethical conduct in business organizations. However, sir, my feeling is that despite large number of registered NGOs and CSR foundations of top Indian companies alongside, the expected sharp increases in CSR spendings, CSR implementation in India, even today has remained as a challenge. Sir, I was undertaking a research that was integration of ethics and values in business school curriculum. My findings, I think it is way back, so in 2016, I conducted a research and that was AIPS, that is a deemed university's research. And the topic was integration of ethics and values in business school curriculum for promotion of political and social harmony. My findings of the research was that the ethics and values to be integrated in each course of business education. It's not a standalone course on ethics or values. It should be integrated in accounting. It should be integrated in HR. It should be integrated in marketing. I do believe that CSR to make business school graduates CSR driven and skilled in this area, and the students, each course should have a dimension of CSR as well as sustainability. I think here, sir, I have a question to the honored speakers sir, today to you, that on behalf of students, researchers, and faculty members, I have a question that, sir, how can management education facilitates development of individual CSR related competencies amongst the future leaders? So CSR implementation, that is the today's business school students, thereby ensuring effective CSR implementation. So that is my first question. And my second question, I would like to enlighten myself and learn from your expert guidance and advice, sir, that what are the career opportunities in CSR and sustainability for the business school graduates, and how business school should groom themselves, groom their students, and align their skill set to make them ready to serve those CSR foundations of the corporate, whether the fresh B school graduates can immediately join, or the B school graduates having some experience, skill, and expertise, they can place themselves in these activities. I think today's webinar will unfold many unknown dimensions and implications of CSR, and it will not only benefit the business school students. I think the researcher like Professor T. Sridhari's PhD research, she is going to submit under Andhra University. She is working for more than 5 years, and I think that also will help her to find out many of her questions. We have very renowned personality with us today, sir. And as I think Professor Sridhari will introduce our honored speaker. But what I feel, it is not only a very dynamic and eminent personality in bureaucrat, but also a high level of researcher, and can contribute a lot towards academics. Sir, very hearty welcome to you for this webinar. I think all the participants, we will be enlightened a lot with your deliberation. Sir, you will be happy to know that today's participant comprises of the future leaders, the young business school students, and faculty members and researchers, not only from Bhavan Center for Communication and Management. Our limit is 100 in this portal, and just now we are 100, and we could not admit more than participants. The students are from Ravenshaw University, FM University, Gandhi Group of Institutions, DREAMS, Innovation Business School, NIIS, IIMT, SBM College, PJ College, USBM, and many more, sir. I think, and they are very eager to listen to you. We are exactly 100 with the participants, sir. Hope the participants will have a lot of value addition and many takeaways from this session, sir. And with this, I once again welcome you, sir, and welcome all the participants and dignitaries to this webinar, and hope these 1.5 hours will be much more beneficial for the young business leader of tomorrow. Thank you all, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam. And with your welcome address, you have set the tone for this webinar and you have given some direction to the webinar, ma'am. Thank you once again.
Not at all
Now,
direction.
let me take the privilege of introducing our esteemed guest speaker to all of you. Dr. Arun Kumar Rath, an IAS officer of 1973 batch from the Jharkhand cadre, has a doctorate in business administration with masters in physics and has studied in various prestigious institutions like Birmingham University, Bradford University, Delhi University, Utkal University. As the Joint Secretary, Department of Public Enterprises and Additional Secretary, Ministry of Steel in Government of India, Dr. Rath has contributed towards better corporate governance and social responsibility of central public sector enterprises in India. As Union Secretary, Minister of HRD, Dr. Rath contributed to the long-awaited Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act 2009. As Director in Boards of SAIL, NMDC, Mecon and Vizag Steel, and as an independent director in the boards of Coal India, MCL, Mangalore Refinery, he has contributed towards the better performance of these blue chip public sector undertakings. Dr. Rath traveled widely around the world and represented India in a number of international conferences, including the United Nations in New York. After retirement, Dr. Rath has been associated with leading business schools like IIM Tirchi, MDI Gurgaon, IMI New Delhi, and many business schools in Bhubaneswar as Professor of Strategy, Corporate Governance, and General Management. He received the Orissa Living Legend Award in the year 2013 and was awarded DLIT in the year 2017 for his outstanding contribution to education and corporate governance. Recently, Dr. Rath was awarded with Fellow of the World Academy of Productivity Science, Montreal in February 2020 for his significant contribution to productivity. I once again welcome you, sir, to this August gathering. As Anita Roddick stated, there is no more powerful institution in society than business. The business of business should not be about money. It should be about responsibility. It should be about public good, not private greed. Business is an integral part of society, and corporate houses cannot separate themselves from the society. After World War II, businesses experienced new pressures to serve as a social force for good, and corporate leaders understood that their businesses carried responsibilities beyond four walls. The father of CSR, Howard Bowen, described CSR as the obligation of businessmen to pursue those policies, to make those decisions, and to follow those lines of action which are desirable in terms of objectives and values of our society. Today, CSR has took a more formal role within the business houses that they began to earmark resources for dedicated CSR activities and departments, aligning the same with marketing, public relations, diversity and inclusion, and HR. Many brands have leveraged on CSR by telling brand stories and orienting companies' purpose and vision. Like Coca-Cola CSR program known as 5 into 20 has the goal of employing 5 million women in developing countries by 2020 in both bottling and distribution roles, benefiting not only the women but also the communities as a whole, as the company aims to provide better access to healthcare and improved education to their employees. Respected sir, in this context, we would like to know from you whether mandatory CSR provisions has really helped the enterprises to achieve the full potential in terms of creating wealth, jobs, and innovative solutions to the many challenges facing the society. How the business can benefit from CSR as well as contribute to the society by taking greater steps to meet their social responsibility. What progress has been made and what challenges still remain. I now request our esteemed guest to address the gathering, and we are looking forward to seek some valuable information and valuable answers to the questions raised by us, sir. Sir, please.
Thank you, Madam. Respected General Mahapatra, Chairman of the institution, Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Bhubaneswar, Dr. Sujata Mangaraj, Dean, Dr. Sridevi, esteemed faculty members, dear students and guests of the event this afternoon. It is indeed a great honor to be invited to deliver a talk on the subject, which is very, very important in today's context. And the presence of General Mahapatra has really enhanced the value and the level of the audience. In fact, I would have loved to listen to him instead of talking to him through a lecture. He is my most respected guardian, so I deem it a great privilege. And I first seek his permission to address him. And he has been very kind enough. In fact, it is for him that I had to change the date, and today's date was not very convenient, but because it was good for him, so I really agreed, and it's a great honor. Friends, I plan to speak for about 50 minutes to 1 hour. Although I have prepared myself for about 2 to 3 hours. So if you want to listen to me for 2 hours and discuss, I'm prepared, but I don't want event of this type to linger beyond 90 minutes. And I would set apart at least 20-30 minutes for any discussion, any question answer session, including 3 already have been given to me by Dr. Mangaraj and Dr. Sridevi. So those 3 are very much on me. I've written down. In fact, all the 3 points raised by them are already, I had anticipated these kind of questions. So I've already covered in my slides, of course, not in this name, but in different names, but it will come up. All the 3 points are already covered. Now, normally, since I teach this subject and for about through about 10-15 lectures of 90 minutes each, and I am same, but in 90 minutes time, I will compress what I normally teach in about 10 into 90 minutes. So that's a Herculean task for me, but let me see how much I compress my presentations into a short space of 50 minutes to 1 hour. It may exceed a bit, I don't know, as we proceed. Now, at the outset, I must compliment Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan Business School. I'm happy to know that you have introduced course on corporate governance, course on ethics, course on CSR. All these subjects I teach in IIMs, in IMIs, MDI Gurgaon, and other leading business schools. In fact, I also have been associated with rating of these business schools on the global scale. Nowadays, every business school would like to get a global rating. There are 4 or 5 very much coveted global ratings. When the global rating agencies come, among other things that the business school particularly, business schools are teaching marketing, finance, HR, but they will ask, are you teaching them ethics? Are you teaching them social responsibility? Are you teaching them good governance and sustainable development? These four items were very much on priority on a global scenario. And they will, if you find that your syllabus is not having it, or your students are not exposed to these concepts, they will not rate you as a global institution. I'm happy that you have taken the right step in the right direction by introducing this curriculum. But it is good to have some practitioner who, because these are all applied. Management is applied science, and these four are more applied than available in theory. So applied aspect must be brought into picture very much. Now, having said that, with my background of having worked in government, in the public sector, in the corporates, and also now as a professor of corporate governance and CSR, I will bring the information from number of points of view. First, as a government functionary, I have myself been in the driver's seat of making policies on CSR, and in the companies, in the board, I have been also in a driving seat to make CSR policies and implement them. And at the end, I'm teaching the same subject to students and audience. So all these perspectives I'll try to bring in before the short time available to me. Friends, now today's agenda, I'll have 7 points, just 7 points. First of all, we must understand the concept of CSR and sustainability. Let me tell you that there's a lot of fuzziness, a lot of confusion about these two concepts. And at the outset, I must tell you what I will come at the end, that CSR, sustainability, sustainable development, stakeholder management, ethics.
Good afternoon, sir.
They all are having same philosophical foundation. That means if you are one, you are also the other. That means if you are responsible to society, you are also ethical, and you are doing sustainable development, you are also doing good governance. So all the four key elements, although there are various concepts, but approach is same. If you are one, perhaps you will also be the other. So therefore, there is convergence of these concepts in the corporate governance. So why CSR? Then I will bring a lot of experiences of my own, experiences of global companies, experience of Indian companies, some case studies that will make it interesting in a very short space of time. Then CSR in practice, I must tell you what actually is happening in practice. Then the legal mandatory provision of CSR, because I was asked at the very beginning, how the law of CSR has helped or not helped. So that part I must cover. Then I must bring out the evaluation studies. If you do not evaluate a concept, a program like that, and tell to the country what has happened, so it is incomplete. So studies. At the end, come to building an action plan. Which way we should go, road ahead for future. So quite a large agenda, but I'll try to squeeze in the very short space of time. Now, first of all, we must begin with corporate governance. Corporate governance has two aspects. One is the aspect of law. You must obey the law. When you are governing a company, you must obey the law and regulations in the legal aspect. But at the same time, corporate governance has a very strong aspect which is social, ethical. That is your duty to society, duties to environment, duty to stakeholder. The two aspects, often great stress is given on the legal aspect of corporate governance, and the ethical, social aspects are not given so much importance. But time has come when the country, society is demanding the second part as much as the first part. This is the beginning. Now, as you know, Howard Bowen, I won't go to history, is the person who is regarded as the father of modern CSR. Then you have Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Rockefeller. They all contributed to what is called philanthropic concept of CSR. Today, friends, the philanthropic part perhaps has replaced to win-win situation of value addition or shared value. That is, it is no longer just a donation. It is an active participation by company in social development. So from philanthropy to win-win situation of social development, let us see how the concept has developed. Now, we have two principles again of corporate governance. One principle is that since the company has been formed by shareholders with their money, so they expect profit maximization, that my value of my share must go up. So you as a corporate manager, as a board of directors, your job is to ensure that my share price goes up, I get more profits. Against that, there is one more principle, the promoting interest of the stakeholders. Now, are the two principles in conflict? Are they opposed to each other? Or is it possible to reconcile? That is a big task. Now, you'll be surprised to know only 50 years back, Milton Friedman, who won Nobel Prize in economics, opposed CSR. He said CSR is no good. CSR is only decreasing the profits of the shareholders. So therefore, what the famous statement he made, business of business is business. Get out of CSR and your job is to earn profits. It was a great concept of CSR because he said CSR decreases companies' wealth. Now, 50 years. But gradually, he was challenged. This concept was challenged, and in 1984, Edward Freeman opposed his view and gave a new view of stakeholder. He said that a company cannot grow only with the shareholders. Company needs many more people than just shareholders. And what he did, he reconciled the shareholders and stakeholders and said, let shareholders also become part of the stakeholders. So he said the big five, shareholders, employees, customers, suppliers, society, these three big five are stakeholders. He reconciled both the opposing points of view and said, let the stakeholders decide the company. And society since then has emerged as a major stakeholder. If society is a major stakeholder, automatically CSR follows as a concept. Now, friends, other thinkers, they said, profit you must earn, but profit for social good. In fact, Charles Handy in Harvard Business Review wrote that profit should be the means to the larger end. Profit should not end by itself, but you are earning profit for a bigger end of social good. In fact, the management guru, Peter Drucker, put it very nicely. He said, profit is like oxygen. If you don't have oxygen, you die. But suppose you think your entire life is about breathing oxygen, you are wrong. You are breathing oxygen for something better than just breathing. So that is the concept of social good which emerged. Now, friends, now there's a beautiful book by Jim Collins. I'm sure many of you might have read, Built to Last. He examined 100 companies who have survived for 100 years. And he said, profit is a must, but profit alone cannot ensure sustainability. The vision, the social values, ethics, and how much relevant you are for society, that ultimately will decide your long-term sustainability. Now, friends, what Gandhi said is also relevant. He said, wealthy people are holding property as a trustee for society. that property must be deployed for social good. And he said, you enjoy your property by giving up, the concept of Upanishad. So all these have influenced Indian CSR scenario. Now then, what then is CSR? CSR must be defined as a concept. There are hundreds of definitions. I'll just give a few. In fact, I will take you to a beginning in 1979 towards defining CSR, and I will take you to a pyramid that is Carroll's four-part model of corporate social responsibility, in which Carroll said that a corporation has four types of responsibility. Number one is economic responsibility. Number two is legal, and both two are red because these are must. Law requires you to obey that, you must, the rules must be obeyed, and society expects that you must make profit, economic responsibility. That's what Milton Friedman said. So the Milton Friedman's concept also is also incorporated here, that ultimately if a society, if a corporation is not earning profit, it is doing a social disservice. So earning profit by legal means is the first stage of corporate social responsibility. And then go to yellow, the blue, the green zone and the yellow zone, and it defined CSR as it includes economic, legal, ethical, and philanthropic expectations placed on organizations by society. Society expects you to have four kinds of social responsibility, including legal, including financial, philanthropic, and ethical. Now, there are other definitions. European Commission is defined in such a way that a concept where companies integrate social and environmental concerns in their business operations and in their interaction with their stakeholders on a voluntary basis. Mark the word voluntary. India has made CSR a legal responsibility, but world over, it is still a voluntary responsibility. That has a lot of things to debate. Have we done right thing? In the process, have we lost something? That must be understood. But world over, it is still a concept which is voluntary. Now, then an obligation beyond law. The concept is an obligation beyond law and economics. That is good for society. You are doing something good for society, which is beyond law. And I must define a concept called sustainable development, because the two concepts must be defined at the very beginning. Now, World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987 gave the best definition of SD as to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. That means you leave something for posterity, don't consume everything now. And this is the balancing of nature and earth, the planet. Now, John Elkington gave the tipping bottle line concept that your job is not just to earn profit, but think of people and think of the planet. And sustainability would require the harmonizing economic, social, and environmental responsibility. Only then you can be sustainable. Only earning profit, that is economic responsibility, is not enough. You have to have all the other kinds of also at the same time. Friends, now I have one slide which is very, very, just look at it for a minute. Now here, there are three concentric circles. At the center is economy, then society, then environment. This is the ultimate concept of sustainable development, where environment is most important, then society, then economy. That means you should be prepared to give up economy for society. And if society is not conforming to environment, environment must have a last word. this concentric circle, economy being constrained by society and environment is the heart of sustainable development paradigm. It is a very difficult concept, but that is what, if you are really going to do sustainable development, this is the model must be adopted. Now, friends, now CSR, why companies do CSR? Companies do CSR for 4 reasons. There are many theories, but 4 kinds of theories. One kind of theory is instrumental. Companies see CSR as an instrument, not ethical. That I am doing CSR so that I earn my business. I get more business out of it. There is a selfish motive. The political theory, I'm such a big company like Google or like Microsoft, I'm like a government. So I have a political power. So I have to help the poor people. So this is a political motive kind of a approach. Then third one is integrative. As a company, I must integrate all my stakeholders and take them with me. So I integrate. And fourth one is pure ethical or philanthropy. This is, I think, going to the old concept. Today, every company is going into the first, second, or third mode. Of course, you are still being pure ethical. I do nothing. I expect nothing. I only give as a philanthropy. That theory also is valid. So all the 4 kinds of theories are there. A company, when it does CSR, it conforms to 1, 2, 3, or all the 4 maybe. Partly 1, partly 2, partly 3, partly 4. Okay. Now, I introduce a new concept of strategic CSR that is given by Porter and Kramer. They said that who is giving to whom? It is a win-win. When you are giving to society, you are getting something back from society. So that win-win situation is something which Porter and Kramer emphasize, that CSR is not just giving part. CSR also means you are getting something back from society. You are giving and taking. It's a win-win. The win-win concept is the value sharing concept. So from the past concept of pure philanthropy to CSR to CSV, creating shared value. I am giving to society, society giving back to me, the win-win situation. I have a beautiful global case study prepared by the Harvard Business Review. I am coming to now applications. Please see how the concept of CSR is being applied in real life situation. Starbucks, that is great coffee multinational. Now they had a problem of coffee. Now they have to maintain the quality, the flavor, and the supply of coffee. And who gives them coffee? The coffee farmers who are small, who are poor, who are in backward areas of the world. So when that problem 20 years back, they thought of an innovation that let us partner with our stakeholder. So they developed those small farmers. They said that please don't have this kind of cycle of coffee. Improve your crop, improve your seed, improve your fertilizer. I'll give you help. In the return, they got assured supply of coffee of good flavor, good quality. So who wins? Starbucks wins and the coffee farmers wins. This is win-win. What Kramer Porter said, this is a concept of shared value, which is a much higher concept, much better concept than just a giving concept of CSR. Friends, now, benefits of responsible practice. Now, if you are doing CSR, your brand goes up, and you are, in fact, in the stock market also, is a pure commercial proposition. In the stock market, the results have shown that companies doing CSR are better, like in the stock market. When somebody buys share, they like to see the history of the responsible business by the company. Employees feel happy. CSR attracts good people. We build trust among the shareholders. Customers like it. And investment nowadays, many global financing institutions would like to know Is this company responsible to society? Yes. Then I will give cheaper finance. So these are the arguments for. Friends, here I will bring what Dr. Mangaraj was asking me, the role of the employees. There's a concept emerging called employee volunteering, that can we, whether in the business school or in a company, can we not support our students, our staff, that you go and work for the local community, whether in a school or a slum or anywhere. What you do is your choice, but I will provide you some support, if not anything, at least 1 day, 2 days leave. And that is emerging. In fact, last year, one general manager of Toyota Bangalore, because Toyota has done EV, what you call individual CSR, for the employees called employee volunteerism, employee volunteering. So one student who is a general manager of Toyota Motor Bangalore did doctorate under my supervision on this very topic. So it's catching up. Again, it's win-win. Employee feels happy that I am working for society. Society feels happy. Yes, this is a great company sending employees, great business school, sending students and employees to the society. So this is a win-win situation where the employees or students go and work for society, and in the process earn a lot of goodwill. Friends, there's one argument for CSR, very strong. The name of CSR, lot of cheating is taking place, not only by small companies, many multinationals are also involved in greenwashing. Now, greenwashing is a concept where you cheat by giving a publicity to your product. There's a green, you are doing a lot of green work. Whereas in the process, actually in reality, you are not doing the green work. Now, I have a cartoon where the CMD says, these black fumes from the chimney, if we make them green fumes, perhaps we'll become a green company. That's a kind of a cheating that a company may do. Or this kind of a cartoon where somebody is going to cut a tree, but he says, I am eco-friendly, I am having an eco-friendly saw. The saw is powered by wind energy. So, but I am cutting a tree. So these are the misleading CSR concepts called greenwashing. In fact, in reality, you are glossing over, you're hiding dangerous things or spurious things and calling them CSR. Now, friends, there are examples. McDonald's changed their logo from yellow to green, but they are having a lot of composition in their food chain, which is not good for health. Kimberly-Clark's claim of pure and natural diapers. Now, diapers said we are having organic cotton, but inside is petroleum gel. This is green. It is not green. Inside is petroleum gel. Then you suppose you have a company which is championing the nature, but the effluent discharge is going to river and polluting the water and killing fish. So you are claiming to be green, but in reality you are not green. This is a greenwashing. So one has to be very careful of greenwashing exercises by companies. Now, friends, I come to almost middle part. We are almost keeping track. I'm keeping track. I have a watch before me and I'm keeping track. Now, friends, CSR framework available are 7 types. If those of you think law is a framework, yes, but there are 6 more framework available for CSR. One is UN Global Compact. Then for government companies, the government of India has given guidelines that you follow CSR and do this. 3 for all companies, national voluntary guidelines. SEBI has come out with board responsibility report that has to be complied by the listed companies. Then the Sustainable Development Goals of UN. And then ISO 26000 has come out with guidelines, the Global Voluntary Guidelines 6, and seventh one is CSR law. I'll deal briefly with each one and then proceed. Now, first of all, UN Global Compact. UN has said, I have got 10 principles. If you obey, then you are part of UN Global Compact and you become a corporate citizen. They are about human rights, labor, environment, anti-corruption. But the danger is that moment you join, you declare, then you will be questioned by shareholders and stakeholders if you are not following those principles. So therefore, one should be very careful before declaring that I am following UN Global Compact. Then UN has brought about the Sustainable Development Goals in 2015. I'll deal at length about it. There's a framework available to companies to follow. And then we have got SEBI. The listed companies have got the SEBI responsible reporting. These are all non-mandatory. They expect you to follow it, but if you don't follow it, there's the immediate punishment. Like, in fact, there's no punishment even in the CSR law. Now, ISO 26000 has brought out a standard that you declare voluntarily that you are doing certain things which are responsible business, and you will be declaring, certifying yourself under the ISO 26000. Now, again, the risk is there. The moment you declare that you are doing it, if you are found to be violating it, you'll be questioned by the press, by the public, by the shareholders, because declaring publicly that I'm doing it. Fine. So, and friends, now come to the CSR law. Now, before I come to the CSR law, let me explain to you that CSR law, whether it is right or wrong, is a law. I mean, there will be a lot of debates. Should a concept of CSR, which essentially is voluntary, should it be brought under law? Anyway, India, in the wisdom, have made a law in the Company Act. They have put a provision. But the problem is that the law says that you spend 2% of your profits on CSR. But Part 2 says if you can't spend, then you give reasons. Now, you are giving something on the right hand and taking it out, some same thing on the left hand, that you just give reasons. And I have been in the boards. Boards are very clever in saying, oh, for reason I couldn't do CSR, I am spending 1%, 0.5%. So this is something, the law is itself weak, and there's no penalty if you do not follow these provisions of law. After 7 years of the law having passed, still there is no penalty. That means virtually you, under some pressure, you follow the law, but no law is not going to penalize you. A lot of debates are taking place. Wow, how can you have a law and no penalty? But there's no penalty if you don't obey the law. That is the weakness of the CSR law, friends. Now, what items you spend, they're already listed. You know that 11 items the law has said that you spend on these items. Unfortunately, sustainable development not very strongly coming out in these 11 items of CSR as per the law. Now, friends, that of course it is only for big companies, minimum net worth of 500 crore, turnover of 1,000 crore, minimum profit of only of 5. That means if you are not a big company, perhaps you are out of this, but you can do it on your own. Even if you are making profit of 1 lakh, nothing prevents you from doing CSR, but law will not look to you, ask for report. Of course, never punish. Law is not able to punish you if you are not following CSR law. Anyway, so now coming to the challenges of sustainable development. Galore, it is grossly misunderstood, grossly ignored. The greenhouse gases, carbon footprint, global warming, water scarcity, population pressure, environmental degradation, natural resource depletion, plus. I'm only giving some examples. Global warming, carbon footprint, There's a point on which much has been discussed, but pretty little is being done. And the carbon footprint, where from it comes? From water emissions, electricity, transport, waste, gas, fuel. These are the carbon footprints. Now, are you doing something to stop it? No, we're not doing anything. Honestly, nothing has been done. Feeling the heat of carbon dioxide, then greenhouse gases. Then I have recorded a chart, a pie chart, where the polluters are methane, and methane is also in the paddy fields. So India also is contributing hugely to methane gas and also carbon dioxide. So that is a point of worry. And emission by sector, biggest polluter, of course, is power, followed by industries, transportation, agriculture itself is also polluting. Land use, then waste disposal. So these are the polluting sectors. Now, if so, can we make sure that the dew in the morning remains non-toxic? The big challenge. How can you keep the dew in the morning non-toxic? It is very toxic. Now, in this context, UN has given 17 sustainable development goals, which are also the mandates for companies and everybody. Now, very interestingly, when Ban Ki-moon, who was the Secretary General of UN, in 2015 announced these 17 goals, he was asked a question. Sir, this is your plan A. What is your plan B if plan A fails? If plan A fails, what is your plan B? Now, what he said is very interesting. He said, there is no plan B because there is no planet B. Either we live or totally die. There is no substitute for planet A. And this is what, there is only one planet. The message of sustainable development is only one planet. As Ban Ki-moon said, there is no second planet. So either keep it or destroy it. And the earth is reaching a tipping point when you cannot go back to the old situation. Now, friends, 17 goals which you have to follow, everybody, right from no poverty, zero hunger, to inequality being reduced, cities, communities, climate action, everything, all 17 goals are there. And figuratively, to picture, I'll run through 17 goals. 1, 2, 3, 4, I'll run through because time is not there. So these are the 17 goals which UN has given for sustainable development. I'll run through, they are maybe known to many. So these are the sustainable development goals which we have to follow. Now, friends, now let us come to the evaluation studies. The CSR, how it has been evaluated, how effective it has been. Now, first I begin with some global study. Global studies, they are about 4 major companies in the world: Apple, Canon, Coca-Cola, Walmart. Now, the study was done by expert group, and the study was to find out if a company has a CSR policy, which every company now has, and that CSR policy is in conflict with practice. That means what you say in policy, you are not doing it. Then who disciplines the company? You are declaring something that I am doing it or I will do it, but not doing it. Who is disciplining, who is punishing the company? That's an interesting study. And it was found that all these 4 companies, which are great companies, renowned companies, having declared the CSR policy, are not following it. And their policy is in conflict with society and environment. What happens then? Now, it was found that Canon had a great policy, Walmart had a great policy, Coke had a great policy, Apple had a great policy of CSR. But it was found that in Rajasthan deserts, Coke went to have a bottling plant when there's no water to drink. So the villagers had a conflict and they threw them out of the village. So Coke in the global headquarters decided that we will not go to any place on earth unless we meet the society first and solve their problems, then go to them, ask for their help. So this became a landmark case of Rajasthan for the entire world. So they said, we will not extract groundwater unless we provide water to the villagers first. So they changed the policy, CSR first, then project. Similarly, their sales dropped. They alarmed when the sales dropped because of this adverse publicity. And Walmart was found to be exploiting labor, gender discrimination, child labor. Apple, again using child labor, suicides at their company and poisoning at their company by their product. Canon also was anti-labor in practice, though pro-labor in policy. So they all were punished by the stock market because of adverse policy. Their share prices fell. They alarmed that we cannot have business if we do not improve our CSR policies and implementation. So they all changed their policies and implementation and made sure that they are sticking to their declared CSR policies. Now, Indian study, it is as old as 2013. Now, public enterprises. Before the law came, Government of India mandated that every PSU must do 2% budgeting on CSR. And Economic Times surveyed in 2013 what has been the achievement. It was very poor. Even half of the money in 2013, of course, old story, was not spent. But what is interesting is that why it was not spent. This is something very interesting. Now, they said, coming to the point of Dr. Mangaraj, that they do not have dedicated CSR professionals. Every company is now feeling that if you do not have trained, dedicated CSR professionals, they cannot do CSR. Then mindset, experts, expert guidance. This is what, who will make a project? So today the employment opportunity with about 40,000 crore budget on CSR, first it has to begin with a project and implementing it to expert professionals. That is something which is now attracting the management students to join and go for this kind of jobs. So absence of dedicated teams was a problem in 2013. I have worked in public sector, Coal India, MCL, MRPL, then SAIL. Every company is now having a band of experts in the workforce who would be CSR specialists. Otherwise, CSR work is not going to happen. So that is one. Of course, in 2013, of late, much improvement is taking place. Now, even the PSUs are now taking it very seriously and evolving their manpower, training them or recruiting manpower from the expert agencies to do CSR. Now, CSR study in India. Now, I will just go through what Indian companies are doing for CSR. Indian Oil, heritage preservation. They are doing Qutub Minar in Delhi has been preserved by IOC, Indian Oil Corporation. Konark Sun Temple, if you go to Konark Sun Temple, you find huge investment. I think 100 crores or so they've invested in Konark Sun Temple, Khajuraho, Canary Caves, Hampi Complex, Warangal Fort. They're all restored, preserved, protected now by Indian Oil Corporation. Similarly, ONGC also. SAIL has gone for steel village. I was in SAIL and we devised a CSR policy of developing steel villages where entire village with a steel village concept we develop all round. Coal India, similarly, the project affected people, NNPC, mega hospitals in mining belt. These are something in which I have contributed also. Wipro is in the area of primary education, computer literacy. Then NTPC, some of the photographs, mobile health clinics, girl's child, every girl must have a bicycle. Then mushroom cultivation among women. Then again education. Then CCL, one project. Am I audible? Am I visible? I hope. Madam?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I will draw attention to a very innovative project of Central Coalfield Limited Ranchi. You can imagine, I had seen myself and photos are taken by me only. Look at the photos for a minute. What they're doing is you can see the tribal children, about 150 of them, one group is seen. They've been taken at the age of 5. At the age of 5, they're recruited in Ranchi by CCL. They have a huge world-class sports academy from CSR funds. And what they've done is train them from the age of 5 while teaching them in schools regularly so that the education doesn't suffer. They train them in all kinds of sports, athletics, swimming, everything. And please look at them. They are all already national gold winners. And their motto, can you believe what their motto? Motto is Olympic gold. You can imagine in place like Ranchi is happening. I saw it 2 years back. I was amazed. All these students are already national medal winners. They are looking for Olympic gold. This is all from the CSR funds. Now you can see that the 2 world-class football players, they've been recruited, employed by CCL Ranchi to train the young boys and girls in football. So this is CSR fund. So similarly, MCL in Bhubaneswar, if you see the hockey, World Cup hockey, it is a MCL has done tremendous work on the hockey. Then similarly, in Raulkala, also SAIL has done. Medical College in Talcher. NALCO, again, they have done a lot of work for land students. Telemedicine, now in a remote village in the hill area of Terry Hydro Development Corporation, which I've seen myself. Telemedicine, that people can't go there. So doctors will go see, or some paramedics will go, report to doctor the cases, and doctor will give medicine. This is telemedicine initiative by CSR funds of Terry Hydro. Now, friends, I have just few slides more. I'll come to now the case study. Now, what is important is independent outside agencies are evaluating the companies. That is a third-party evaluation. Economic Times and IIM Udaipur are doing it for last so many years. They are doing 500 top companies survey as to how they have done in CSR. Friends, 14, 13 ranking, ranking has been published. So companies will know where they are doing well or not doing well. You can see Mahindra is number 1 in 14, and before that Tata Steel was number 1. Top 10 are listed, top 50 are listed in fact. Top 10 they published in the paper, but similarly, the top 10 projects which got top 10 awards in by the Economic Times is Mahindra became number 1, project Nanni Kali, that was education of girl child from CSR funds. Then Tata Power got second prize. Act of Mahsi. Mahsi is an endangered species of fish. So money is spent to protect them. Similarly, Tata Steel did maternal and newborn survival initiative Mansi, got third prize. Then L&T community health centers got fourth prize. Then Tata Chemicals Save the Well campaign, getting endangered, got the 5th prize. Tata Motors again got education skill development 6th prize. GAIL got GAIL Utskars, the scheme for skill development and education, got the 7th prize. Then Bharat Petroleum Project Bund, water harvesting, they promoted and they are judged to be 8th best in the country that year. Infosys, Akshay Patra, all of you know Akshay Patra Foundation. Infosys promoted that and is judged to be number 9th. And Jubilant Life Science, working elementary education, got the 10th prize. Now, what is crucial here? When the judgment was done, they saw the quantum of money spent, but not enough. What is the efficacy? What is the result? What is the impact? So quantum of money spent and impact created. If you spend huge money and created no impact, you are not rated very highly. Whatever money you spend, the impact creation, both are measured, then you are rated. So therefore, CSR must lead to a value creation, asset creation, impact creation. That is the result, how the top 500, now 1,000 companies are rated in the country. Now, similarly, next year, again the survey and found different numbers, many are common. What is important is that all the 4 years, Tata Steel, Tata Power, Tata Motors, Tata companies always remain among the top 10. 4 companies. There's something secret about Tata's. We must not that Tata are doing everything wrong, right? They are doing many wrong things also. But on CSR, the approach is different, very professional. Now that I will come. Now here, the Economic Times rating and finding, please mark one thing, that average spending on CSR has been 1.4% of the profit after tax. If you take India as a whole country, total spending has not been 2%, even after 5 or 6 years of law having been passed. So it is only 1.4%. So people are questioning what kind of law you have. So it is, his law is not having any teeth. So anyway, so we have to improve our legal implementation also, but the legal implementation is very short because there is no punishment. So my theory is that obey the law, but don't confine to law, go beyond law, because CSR essentially is a beyond law concept, is a voluntary concept. Now, I'll be closing in few slides so that the question and answer can take place. Now, I told you in 4-year survey, top 10 include 3 or 4 Tata companies. Why is it so? Now, I think the founder of Tata's, his mantra is something to guide them. What Jamshedji Nasirwalji Tata said is that the wealth which comes from the people must, as far as possible, go back to the people. The great philosophy. So this wealth is people's wealth. Give it back to them as you can, as much as you can. So they have a society, before the law came, 1979, they formed a Tata Steel Society, and they are spearheading the kind of a CS activities, and their basket is safe water, health hygiene, education, environmental awareness, youth development, sports, Pani Panchayats, self-help groups. Now, they don't just give a grant. They say, you build yourself. I'll help you only when you help yourself. Self-help is the motto of the Tata's approach. Now, ranking, I told you, ranking is now becoming very important. If a company is not rated highly, then the company executive must feel bad that what are you doing? We're doing nothing. So ranking has come. 2015 ranking, I'll show you top 100 companies. Tata Steel, number 1, Tata Power, UltraTech Cement, Mahindra, Tata Motors, Tata Chemicals. Again, so you can, I am scrolling through 10 top 100 companies of India as done by independent survey. What is important is government is not doing it. Done by Economic Times and IIM Udaipur. So these are the top companies of India listed by the survey, and it is publicly available in the website. So top 100 companies. Now, friends, few more slides. Now, you can see a slide how the CSR funding has been done. The public sector has spent how much and how much liability in total. So the companies reported 14,000 companies said we are doing CSR in 14-15, but next year 19,000 companies reported. So that means more and more companies are reporting that I am proud. That the sense of pride is very important. I am proud. I am doing CSR. Now, similarly, top 10 private and public sector companies. Again, these are all public figures. On the private company, Reliance, TCS, ITC, Tata Steel, Infosys, ICICI Bank, Wipro, Yamuna Power, Axis Bank, SGS on private sector. On public sector, NTPC, ONGC, Central Coalfield, NNPC, Power Finance, Maruti Goldfield, Northern Goldfield, Indian Oil, REC, ACCL. These are the top private, and they are all. The beauty of the public disclosure is must be understood that you are giving a sense of pride to the company. Now their equity, their brand equity goes up, so they feel happy. Now, friends, how much money has gone to which sector? This is a distribution chart. You can see education has taken lion's share. 46% of the CSR funds of India has gone to education, followed by health. So health education has taken about 80-90% of the funds. So there is again a criticism that all are doing only education and health, but many areas are neglected. So that is again a point to be kept in mind. So I am not going to delay further. I'll end in about 5 minutes time. Now, this is the two images I present about CSR and about the sustainable development. And I will end with 2 more slides, very critical, which is the way ahead, road ahead, which way we go. Now, with this presentation, the biggest problem is that many companies think CSR as an afterthought. CSR is taken as an icing on the cake. Like you have made a cake, then, oh, let us decorate it with CSR. Bring CSR as icing and put it. There's afterthought. Now, actually, the CSR must begin at the project formulation. Before even the project starts, think of CSR as Coca-Cola is doing it, because after the Rajasthan experience, they are doing CSR first, that we are going to do a project. Let us win the villagers, then go for a project. So the business strategy must contain CSR, not as an afterthought. Now, friends, I would close my presentation by very, very important last slide. It will take about 2 minutes time, little more maybe, to explain. This is this crucial slide. Please look at it carefully. There are 10-point strategy, 10-point action plan for effective CSR and sustainability. Point number 1, the business strategy. CSR must be part of your business plan, not afterthought. Often it becomes an afterthought. Number 2, who is doing CSR? A junior manager or the chairman? That makes no difference. The CSR commitment and ownership must come from top. If the CSR is not, I have worked in many companies. I have seen if the board, if the chairman, if the directors are not serious about CSR, CSR doesn't happen. So CSR must come from the top, commitment. Then board must formulate a policy of CSR first. There our management students can help the board how to frame a project, how to frame a policy. And continuously the core team of the company must be available as a dedicated team to help the board, the chairman, directors, to guide them to frame a policy, continuously review it. And 4th one, what Dr. Magraj was asking, employee volunteerism. Can you build a culture where entire company feels proud that I am doing something for society? It is not chairman's job alone. So therefore, that in many companies, employees are volunteering. Only thing you have to provide them support. That yes, or you say you don't go anywhere, you work in office. Then the voluntary aspect of individual CSR doesn't happen. So can you frame a policy where you encourage employees, students to go out to society and join in the CSR activity? Then fifth, allocate 2% CSR fund in time. Often the CSR funds are not given in time. If you give towards the end of the year, again, there the management students can help. That can you tie up the fund allocation in time and distribute the fund to agencies which are going to do the work. Now here, again, I am to, because 2% coming, there's a great danger of 2% spending. By spending 2%, you may not necessarily be compliant to society, because you may do 2% spending, still be irresponsible to society. You can still do gender discrimination, you can still do child labor, you can still pollute the rivers, you can still pollute the atmosphere. I spend 2%, so what? Don't I can do anything. Since I have spent 2%, I have responsibility. No, it is not. That is the wrong impression that law might have created. Moment you spend 2%, you are a CSR compliant. No, it is not. Because you can do 2% and still break many of the social expectations. Now, dedicated wing with professionals, that is where our management students can join. And there are 1,000 companies, not one or two. Then do CSR in a project mode. If you are spending money, but no impact, is as good as not spending money. You're distributing doles to society. It is not. You should have a project mode with a beginning, allocation, and an impact assessment. In fact, 8 is evaluation of outcome and impact. And 9 and 10 are very important. Law is there. Although personally, I really don't feel that a law has really helped much. Studies are showing that law has not really greatly improved, except building a pressure. But compliance part 2% is not taking place because spending has been 1.4%. So, but still, law is there. So obey the law, but observe the voluntary part of CSR, that you are doing it, law or no law, I will help society. And lastly, don't see CSR as charity. CSR should be win-win, where both company and society become partners, like Kramer-Porter's theory of strategic CSR, shared value, that company is not giving, company is taking help from society. So it is both are helping each other. That win-win mindset is most important, and all the 10 points are necessary if you want to have a effective CSR. Friends, I'm closing here. There are many more things to say, but let questioning come. Now, before I ask for questioning, there are already three questions, two by Dr. Mangaraj and one by Madam Sridevi. Now, I have perhaps answered, but more than so, the management education must provide greater professional aspect of CSR, because just CSR is a concept, practice of CSR being done by companies around the world. In India, there is something which you must stress in our in a classroom dealings. So, and employee volunteerism is something very much on rise around the world. Employees are going out, students are going out. That's a great opportunity. Career chances, I told you, so many careers. In fact, now every company is that they want CSR professionals to help them. Financial management, social work management, the baseline survey. Go and have a baseline survey before the CSR project is taken up. And I told you about mandatory CSR, 2% has not been achieved, it is only 1.4%, because the CSR law has no teeth. And for 7 years' time, India is trying to give a teeth to the law, because suppose a company doesn't follow CSR, will you arrest them? Will you fine them? Becomes very difficult. Then it becomes a negative aspect of the investment chances. So therefore, it's a very difficult question. So therefore, I would say obey the law, but do not forget the CSR basically is voluntary in nature. You help society because you love society, not because somebody is threatening you with law. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you so much, sir. You have given a very elaborate description about CSR and how it leads to sustainable development. So, may I request our chairman, sir, Major General Mahapatra, sir? Sir, any questions, sir?
चेयरमैन है
ये VC
Sir, sir, please kindly unmute yourself, sir. We are not able to listen to you. Chairman, sir, we are not able to listen to you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
It is just, I would say, sum it up, it is just wonderful. The best I have heard so far, I must confess, it is, and happily too, that this is the best I have heard so far. What Dr. Ratha has said, he needs 10 periods, and that is really speaking the correct one. However, it is his brilliance that he has been able to put it across in just about 1 hour, 10 minutes. Thank you, sir. It is just wonderful. Before there are a lot of questions with the students, I want to highlight only 2 points, which he has elaborated. The mindset, first and foremost, is the mindset. The mindset of the company, which Dr. Ratha has clearly indicated. Number of people in the corporate, अच्छा इसको तो करना है, अच्छा CSR करना है, अभी क्या करें बताओ. That is the attitude at present, and he has clearly given out when a company is being formed or a project, that time it is to be incorporated. The soch from mindset is the first thing as far as the companies are concerned. Second, as far as the employees are concerned, that is also number of the people think that, well, ye paisa gaya. We would have got some other day that facilities we would have got, but money has gone on this. Kya benefit, kya fayda hai hame? So they are unable to visualize the higher picture of environment which Dr. Rath explained. The public's, the community's cooperation by itself is a very, very big thing to happen. So that is as far as the employees are concerned. And as far as the students, that is also a mindset. I would say, what is the purpose of life? This question, number of times people think and ask them, what is the purpose? Purpose is you be happy, but make others happy. And whatever you got when you were born, leave the world a better place. That is in simple terms, I would say. Leave it a better place. You can't bring smile to everybody, but can you bring it to even one person? Even one person. The concept of drop by drop makes an ocean. And that is start today. Start today. So when I come to the purpose of life, in that I would link up that in the beginning, those students who are there participating, you may not be able to choose your company, but nevertheless, if you have the option, choose companies who are ethical and who are doing good to the people. Example, you go to join an alcohol company, you join Coke, you join fast food, you join companies who are making lipstick and rouge. Lots of companies are lots of things, but what is their product and what is its effect? Is it improvement of the society or not? So for the students, my message to them is choose your company and what they are doing. Is it good for the society? Is it good for the environment or not? You may not be able to choose in the first goal, but look for that. Whenever you get an opportunity, switch over to those types of companies. It was a brilliant presentation, and I feel privileged to be hearing the every word which has been spoken by Madam Sujata Mangaraj, brilliant, absolutely as usual. You are not wanting to speak today. I forced her. I said, no, you have to do the thing. And Sridevi, old madam, was also the same thing. Oh, yeah. And Sridevi, madam, publicly, I want to congratulate you. You have done very, very well. So over to the students for all their questions, and we'll have little more time. Is it all right, Swaroop? Is it all right?
Yes, sir.
You will grant us half an hour?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No problem, sir.
Thank you, Professor Swaroop. Thank you. Over to Sridevi, madam, and the students' questions.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a question from Mr. Amit Kumar Mohanty. He is Amit Kumar Mohanty. He is asking, how is it possible to prove that usage of CSR approach leads to increasing competitiveness of a company?
Yes, very good question. In fact, stock market is the best, one of the places where you measure it about the perception, brand equity. Brand equity is something which consists of so many factors. One factor is how responsible the company is. So brand equity goes up if you are doing responsible business and goes down if you are not doing responsible business. And in fact, economists of New York did this study and came out with a surprising conclusion that those companies which are ethical and socially responsible, they are doing better in stock market in the same sector than companies who are found to be not doing so well. Now, I have taken out this slide just now, the global case study of some of the best companies, that those who did not do CSR practice as per their policy, how they are punished and they are forced. There's no law for them. Without law, they have to change their CSR practice and do improve their practice because they are punished by the shareholders, punished by society, because they have to depend upon society for their product. Now, when the sales goes down, nothing like sales going down as a punishment. And in fact, it's so when a management student, let's say, wants to join a company, he will join that company which is more responsible than a company which is not responsible. These are all proven research studies have established this fact that ultimately the CSR and sustainable efforts of a company do really add to their reputation and to their brand. And I have taken out the arguments for. It shows employees feel happy. Socially responsible companies outperform their less fastidious peers on the stock market. This is a quotation from the Economist of 2005. There is a study that how CSR help company. Finding is first line. So this is ample proof that CSR leads to competitive advantage, and without CSR, you may have problem in the long run because people are watching. There are a lot of activism by the shareholders, activism by stakeholders. You will be branded as a socially irresponsible company. And mind you, today, if you are branded as a socially irresponsible company, you can guess the consequences.
Sir, Mr. Suresh Bisoi wants to know any latest amendments in the CSR Act.
No, you see, CSR Act has got small amendments here and there, but the major aspect that you spend 2%, the board will earmark 2%. If the board cannot spend, board must give reasons. And who can spend minimum profit of 5 crores, turnover, net worth, all these, and CSR spending is allowed. Like you are doing something with the employee, it is not CSR. You are doing something for a normal business, it is not CSR. So those basic features of CSR remain intact. Now in the schedule attached, like which are the items on which you can spend CSR money, there have been small tinkering here and there, but by and large, the policy remains intact. The provision of penalty is being debated for last 7 years' time. How can you punish a company which is not obeying the law? In fact, at the very first case, when you hear a law, you should be careful that a social work cannot be brought under law. It's very difficult. Then you punish. You put the chairman behind bar, you put the director behind bar, then what happens? They all will be behind bar. So this is not a very good solution. So basically tinkering with the law here and there has been done, but major aspect of law remains same.
Yes, sir. Mr. Professor Abhishek Sinha has a question for you, sir.
Yes, yes.
Corporates are spending their CSR budget and doing activities on their own versus the setting up of local CSR funds where participating corporates can contribute and let activity be managed by government or any other third party. Which one is a better option, sir?
Okay, first, no government. Because once you give to government, then you are giving a tax. So CSR should not be seen as a tax. It's wrong to, again, give the money. Government is taking 30% tax from you. Maybe it's now going down 25%. Now you give 2% more as tax. What's the meaning? So first of all, government should never be giving this money. Government should not spend this money. Third party, well, because see, suppose you are a plant manager in, let's say, Bokaro Steel Plant, Bhilai Steel Plant, you are in charge. You are an engineer doing steel making. How do you know the needs of the community around you? You don't know, not expect to know. So therefore, you must develop the either partner with a expert agency like Infosys is done with Akshay Patra. Akshay Patra is doing expert job in the field. So reliable, expert, third party. So Infosys company is giving money to. Like similarly, you find one, but the risky is that that party doing something wrong, blame will come on you. So you have to be very careful while selecting the third party. Other way, you develop your own expertise. You take the students from Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Bhubaneswar, go to Dr. Mangaraj and she will give you 100 students. Take them, train them. They will be your ambassadors. Why can't you do it? I mean, who in third party, who are the same Vidya Bhavan management students will go to third party and do the company's work. Why can't company? Mind you, I have seen around the country now, every company, private, public, MNC are now creating experts for CSR. They are giving third party, yes. Either give third party reliable or failing which you develop your own team who can do the work. Fine. But not government.
Thank you. Sir, one more question from Jagdish Reddy. He is asking why CSR integrated with business is not there in private hospitals, private schools, colleges, temples, etc. for better development of the society and a healthier environment for the needy people.
No, CSR, you see, CSR has got number of times. First of all, if you are a very small business unit, no, it becomes on you. So law is only for big companies. Although law is not being enforced, but even then on paper, it's for big companies. Now, suppose you're a small business can do better CSR, but it is voluntary. CSR is voluntary and small business is more voluntary. Now, hospital, if it is not a company, it is individual, they can still do CSR, doing it. It's not that they are not doing it. Not that only companies are doing CSR. Small units are also doing, not registered, not corporatized, not into company. They're doing, because as you yourself asked, that's fine, individual responsibility. I'm not in part of corporation, I'm not a corporation, but I feel I'm individual, I'm donating. So it is your choice. In fact, do you feel that I should help society? That is important. Or you are a very self-centric to let my neighbor starve. I'll have a very good dinner and sleep. Fine. This mentality is there. But how long you carry with this mentality? Because the neighbor tomorrow is hungry neighbor will come to your house. Maybe you have a problem. So therefore, if people are poor in area, therefore, if you see sustainable development goal of UN, the first principle is no poverty.
Yes.
Poverty leads to non-sustainable development. Hunger, poverty removal and hunger are two first principles of sustainable. You cannot have such peace unless you remove poverty. You cannot have peace unless you hunger. So something has to come from you because you are one of the billion people of the world or country. Are you doing something as part of your conscience? That is to understood. Don't understand. Fine. Fine. You remain in the state of ignorance. Fine. But perhaps you may not like to. So therefore it must come from within, law or no law. Friends, around the world, CSR is not a law. But more and more such efforts are coming around the world because they know without CSR, they cannot do business.
Okay. Sir, I would like to
Yes.
ask you a question, sir.
Yes, madam.
Sir, till now we were discussing about the big corporations doing the CSR activities. Now, the focus is on small enterprises. The youngsters, they are going for their own entrepreneurship activities. So, do you think that the same model can be applied to them also?
No, just repeat. I was saying this chat box. I just pressed chat box to read. So I missed last part of the question. Please, pardon me. So is there anything on chat box? Because the audience should not feel ignored.
No,
Please
sir.
see chat box.
No questions are there. That is why I asked the question.
Okay, please repeat, madam. I'm sorry, because I looked at the chat box. Repeat, kindly. Yes.
My
Young
question
people.
in your presentation also you have given that what are the large organizations, public sector, private sector organizations, they're contributing towards CSR activities. Now if we look into the government policy also, now they are promoting the entrepreneurship, MSME sector and all these things. So my question is, the same model that these large corporations are adopting, the same model can be adopted by these entrepreneurs, or do we need to design a new model for them?
Absolutely. First of all, I do not think a model given from outside is necessary. Because I again stick to the concept of CSR being voluntary, underline the word voluntary. You cannot force CSR by law. To that extent, if you really ask me, I am not happy with CSR being, because it gives a long impression. Oh, you have done the law. Outcome? Law says 2%, you are spending 1.5%, 4%. Without law also, maybe it would have come to the same thing. So first of all, a model, of course, examples can be given, but a government giving a model, itself doesn't work. Government may give a tax incentive, not tinker with it. Say, if you are doing CSR, I'll give you a tax incentive. Don't say, do this. This is CSR. And now, in a conference, the debate, is this CSR or not? Do you think government will spell out what is CSR, what is not, or anybody? That you define what is CSR, because CSR is something which comes from within. Are you helping society or not? Plain and simple. Or you are doing greenwashing, cheating in the name of CSR. People can do cheating in the CSR. So they're because you are pushing them to the wall that you will spend 2%, 30% is coming. So they do resort to greenwashing. Spend the money somehow. That's a very dangerous concept. So moment you make it a legal liability, then you start doing greenwashing. You perhaps think it is not CSR, but oh, I have to spend the money. Somebody will ask you, why did you spend the money? So, madam, simple point that MSME, a small person, may be more responsible than a big person. Don't think the small person may not be responsible. On the contrary, a small MSME with your own earning can do bigger CSR more effectively than spending money by a big company. In fact, many big companies spend money I've seen without any impact. So when I said the last slide, I said impact is very important. Are you creating impact or just spending money? You see, I saw this slide. Many companies are spending much, no impact. It's a waste of money, I should say. Because if society is not feeling that I am getting benefit, your money spending has no meaning. So small, big, medium, anybody, what is their intention and their commitment? That is more important than showing quantum of expenditure. Did I answer the question? Madam, you are expert. You also can contribute.
No, sir. When compared with your practical knowledge, my experience is only theoretical.
I saw a very, very small company. Is not within 5 crore of profit. No. But I am amazed at the commitment of the company's promoter. And with a small profit, they did much bigger than what a big company did because they are committed. The personal commitment comes first. It's very important.
Yes, sir. Sir, one
In
more
chat box, any other question? Chat box.
Yes, sir. One
Chat
more
box, any
question, sir, from Abhinash Pradhan. He's asking, some companies are doing advertisement in the name of CSR. Is it ethically right? What's your view on this, sir?
The two aspects. If we are doing CSR and do not inform, there is no great advantage because you are also, mind you, I told you 4 theories of CSR: integrative, ethical, political, instrumental. So when I am a commercial body, first of all, don't forget that shareholders have created me. It is not my money. The chairman is not spending his money. He is spending money of shareholders. So shareholders will ask, while spending this money, what advantage came to company? They ask in the AGM, in the letter to chairman, sir, why are you spending our money? Who are you? You are an employee. You are chairman, you are an employee. So then the information communication is aspect. You must communicate. You must inform. You must say that I am very responsible. Now, but at the same time, if it is misleading information, that you have not done something, but you are giving publicity in the area of greenwashing, that you are actually damaging environment, but spending some money here and there, and publicizing that I am a great company, although it's a greenwashing. So now the time has come for the shareholders and stakeholders to question that. That, sir, I saw your publicity. You are saying so and so, but you are not doing it. Can you stop? A letter written to a chairman of the company who is giving misleading propaganda and publishing, because now the press is active, media is active, there are activism, shareholders, activism is there. So in this era, it should be difficult for misleading ads for doing no work. But if you're doing good work, there's no harm in informing public that I've done good work. So you may not. You may be a silent worker, but there's no harm because ultimately shareholders would like that the image of their company goes up. Nothing wrong. But provided it is the right information.
Thank you so much, sir. There are no other further questions. So,
Okay.
now let me take the privilege of proposing the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you very much.
Special
Thank you.
thanks to you, sir, for your gracious presence and also enlightening us about the various dimensions of CSR, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, Jal Mahapatra. Thank you, Dr. Mangaraj. And thank you all the participants for joining in large number. It is very heartening to see 100 as per the capacity within capacity to cross it. I'm very, very happy to participate. Great. And I hope the business school is able to send their students to companies as a dedicated CSR professionals under chairmanship of Jan Mahapatra, Dr. Mangaraj, and Madam also, and Shri Madam. I wish good luck to all the students and all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very enjoyable for me also. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so
Namaskar.
much. I also thank all the students and faculty members from various institutions who have participated in the program and have made the event a grand success. I would also extend the thank you to the management of Bhavan Center for Communication and Management for their kind support and guidance. And a special thanks to our Dean Madam, who is always encouraging and the guiding force behind us. I'm happy to express my thanks to all my faculty, colleagues, staff, and supporting staff, without whose contribution this webinar could not have been a success. Thank you all, sir. Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you very much. I take leave.
Thank you,
Sir,
sir.
namaste.
Jan Mahapatra, Dr. Mangaraj, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great honor. Thank you.
Thank you. All the best.
Thank
All
you.
the
Thank
best.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ratha. Wonderful.
Thank you,
We
sir.
look forward to further association.
Thank you, sir.